Inside the ManCave with Johnny Compian.
Oh, yeah. Hey, put your finger in my fun hole.
It's beautiful.
Graphic language will be used throughout this show.
Now we ready to roll.
Inside the ManCave with Johnny Compian.
Game over, bitches.
Inside the ManCave podcast show. Follow me on Twitter at Johnny Compian and all my social media pages, especially the YouTube page. I got 20 subscribers. I'm feeling pretty confident. I had asked for 10 and you guys have delivered. You guys got me to 20. So like and subscribe my YouTube page. And get me to 50. How about that? That would be cool. So I appreciate all the love that I'm getting on social media, on my YouTube page, on my Twitter page. I appreciate all that. That's pretty cool. It's been a little bit since I've been on to do a podcast. I kind of wanted to sit back a little bit and let my other podcasts that I have put out kind of, you guys kind of catch up. The new subscribers to go back and listen to some of the stuff that I had done before, when I first started this podcast. So it's a cool opportunity. And then I'm going to start putting out, some constant podcast here in the next couple of days. So I appreciate that. I want to get into a couple things that that been in my radar since I've been, off this platform. The first thing that I want to get into is this new documentary that's on Netflix, Trainwreck. It's about the Woodstock 99. And they try to come back. They had some of the promoters and a group of people that wanted to bring this back to life, kind of recreate what was going on in 1969 when they did that Woodstock, with Hendrix and all the greats, Santana, just all across the board. You know that story, right? You guys know it. I don't have to rehash that. You guys know that. But this documentary that was put out August 3rd, I had a chance to watch it last night, and it was sad, disappointing, and it kind of brought back something that happened a few months ago here in Texas. We had a tragedy in one of the a show that was going on here in Houston. Travis Scott. So I want to get into that. Get into that documentary I had seen, and all the things that happened in 1999 when they brought that together. It was just such a it was literally a train wreck. It's a great it's a great name for it because that's exactly what happened. These promoters, everything was set up. They had this airplane hangar and out in New York somewhere, and it was just sad to see how they lined their pockets, and they still were trying to profit off this younger generation. I lived through that too, but I wasn't able to attend that. I think it was like $150 a ticket, and that's a pretty good price. Compared to now, right? We've talked about that on this podcast, on how ticket prices are freaking crazy. $150 for 3 days campground, and that's a bargain, dude. But you couldn't take your water in, you couldn't take anything in, and everybody got a bunch of drugs, and it was amazing how that those promoters would avoid all the questions and all the problems that were going on right in front of them. it was just a huge mismanaged deal that it was awful to see, and the outcome was sad. It was sad to see, very disappointing. And there's a lot of people on Twitter who are just making a mockery of it, and saying, "Oh, it's hilarious," but it's not. It's really not funny, because there was a lot of things that happened during that event on that third day. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Go watch it, and then we'll kind of come back and rehash this. But a lot of things happened in that documentary that were just awful. I had an opportunity, in my early age, to be a stagehand and to work huge festivals they had here in San Antonio. For Fiesta, I worked a few Shiner Fest, stagehand. It was a good experience. I could handle the work at the time. I got to work with some good friends, and just a lot of good memories, and a lot of hard work. A lot of just, man, it was cool to talk about it now. I wish I could have some of those guys come on this podcast and talk about that, because it was some cool times that we had, legendary times, because La Semana Alegre doesn't happen in San Antonio anymore. So that was a huge event for Fiesta here. And the reason I talk about that is because I kind of seen, what goes on in the backstage area, and you see all the things that are happening. I mean, when artists are around, because they had the different nights in this. It was a week long. And so they had different, nights. They had like a pop night, a Tejano night, a rock night. It was country night. It was really cool to experience. Every night, everybody would just get shit-faced, drink lots of beer, eat good food, meet hot chicks, and just have fun. It was a cool era to live through. And now that I'm talking about it, it's good that I went through it, because I can talk about it. There was nothing compared to what happened on that documentary, Trainwreck, on Netflix, Woodstock '99. Not even close. At 250,000 there. But it just kind of brought back a lot of memories, because some of the things they talked about, and don't take me wrong, none of the stuff that happened at La Semana, the years that I worked, that I had opportunity to work, nothing bad happened. There was a lot of beer drinking, a lot of I've talked about some of the stuff that I got to experience, like drinking beer backstage with Rod Strickland and Joan Jett the same night, in the same little, where we were around a keg, and they're both there. Rocket Rod Strickland, if you old Spurs fans remember that. And that was cool. But, what happened there, and after every night, it was a different scenario. I get it. It was a different scenario, because every night they came out and they cleaned out. After everybody was gone and the night was out, and they got everybody out, it was organized chaos, right? Everybody just get out and just go out and go do whatever. But you got to leave here. We got to get ready for tomorrow. In the wood, they would clean out the porta potties and refresh everything. It was like a 24-hour operation. You get the ice in there ready for tomorrow or the next day. We'd break everything down, and you have the soundboards, cover them up, just because in April we'd get bad weather here. It's non-existent now. But I saw that, and I'm like, how could these guys, these promoters, just sit back and just talk on walkie-talkies and see this thing unfold in front of them the first night of this Woodstock 99. You know, they were trying to recreate, because they had one of the original promoters. They had a few people in there that you know, they brought big bands to the table and other shows and festivals. So they kind of knew what was going on, but I think they took on. It's hard to tell, because I don't know exactly how, you know, everything just kind of fell apart for them. I mean, you know, they talked about kind of doing their job, and then afterwards, okay, I'm going to go party, and I did mushrooms, and the next day I had to get up and do this stuff. Well, you know what? You got to take care of your fans. The people that are staying on the grounds, you know, been out on that, and you're charging them, you know, outright. Well, back in the day, $4 was a lot of money, and they were charging $4. Now you go to ACL and you pay $10 maybe. I don't drink water when I'm at ACL. It sounds bad. I hydrate before I get there, and then I drink lots of beer, and then afterwards I rehydrate with water. But I think it's like $10. It's not $4. That's for sure. And everything it costs money to go in these places now. There's so there's a lot of big festivals that happen that I've attended and been in the backstage area where everything is set up, where they got hospitality, and yeah, the people back there are being taken care of course, because you got artists, you got big names, you got big producers, you know, on and on. I mean, you have to take care of those people. But the people that pay to see these shows, you got to take care of them too. You can't just leave them out in with no water, no clean water, no clean porta potties. You know, it's an awful thing. You know, it's an awful thing to kind of to see unfold. You know, because you're like, this is not good. This is what is manifesting is not good. Even some of the artists that came out and talked about it and said, you know what, we played and we knew, because it was out of hand. The fans were like just frustrated. They couldn't afford the water. They were like, man, this is just price gouging everywhere. Everything was expensive for them. After the first night, you know, it was a bunch of young people who just wanted to cut loose. And some of the promoters were talking about, you know, some of the fans there were just assholes. Well, I think if you would have, as a promoter, you know, take care of your fans, I don't think you would have had that issue. I mean, it was amazing how they put this together. It was really good, because this wasn't on my radar at all. And like I tell you guys, you know, follow me on Twitter at Johnny Compian. That's where I'm always at. I'm always checking out and looking at some of the stories that are trending. And I ran across that story, and everybody was kind of upset. You know, they were upset at some of the artists. Excuse me, some of the artists and of course the promoters. I get it. I get it. I get both sides, but as a promoter, you need to take care of your fans. There's no way you can leave, and it's happened before, right? We've seen that before, where, you know, it's been in the news where these promoters come out and they promise all this stuff. I don't remember that. There was one about there was a guy who wanted to have a show out in some island, and they showed up and there was nothing, no artists. It was a tragedy. But this was on another. It was different. It was another level. You know, the end part was just horrible. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Watch it. You know, follow me on Twitter and let me know how you feel about it at the end. I had an awful feeling afterwards. I was like, this is horrible. I hope this never, ever happens again. And, you know, the first thing I thought about, because they're saying that hasn't happened. Woodstock hasn't came back since 99. I mean, now you see this, and some yucky promoter is going to come out and say, we can make this work. Let's get these sponsors. They'll get a few huge sponsors that come out. We're in. Let's do it. We're going to get the biggest stars, and let's do Woodstock 2024. And you'll get the artists. They'll come. They want to get paid, especially right now. So I don't think there would be a problem, you know, kind of rehashing that. But so many just awful, god-awful things happen that third night. Well, throughout the 3 nights there was women who were just being mistreated. And, you know, they had their tops off, and they were kind of, you know, crowd surfing. And guys were just kind of just, you know, grabbing them, and just, it was awful. It was awful to see. It was just awful. Just awful behavior. And you see that. You see that in you know, back in the day, you know, like, you know, back in the day, La Semana, that would happen too, where guys would go out there, and it was crowded. The numbers were up there, not that big, but still, you would get guys that would grab women, and it was just awful to see. I didn't. Whenever you would see that, you'd kind of just like, man, come on, like there's no need for that. And the bad thing is that you know, that happened. There was awful news that happened that third night, where there was a van that was like stuck, and, you know, just the news that came out of that was just fucking disgusting. It was disgusting. It's something that should never happen. It was just awful. It was awful to see, and how can I put this lightly? You know, those things, they had all this ecstasy and all these drugs, and, you know, things were happening. They were talking about people just, you know, up against wall, like, you know, where they had these gates and stuff. There were people just like against them, standing up, having sex, and just doing all these crazy things because they were on X. But people just took it too far, because some tragic things happened that third night, right before or right after or before the meltdown happened. It was just awful. It's hard to talk about, because right now we look back on that and we're like, man, we're better than that. We are way better than that. And it's hard to kind of sit back and go, you know what? That's cool. This is cool. We weren't thinking. We were drunk. It wasn't cool. There were so many bad things that happened during that 99 Woodstock festival. So many. And they talk about a time bomb because people were just frustrated. There was nothing. There was dirty water, not drinkable. The food, people couldn't afford some of that. The prices were high. You know, it was just awful. It was a bad things that happen. And those promoters, they avoided every time the media was on site and asking them certain questions, they just avoided it. They were like, dude, it's going great. You know, they would sit there. They had MTV there, and MTV was live. And, you know, these people, by the second, they're throwing bottles everywhere and just pissed off. Like, dude, Why don't we have clean porta potties? Why is a bottle of water $4? And things just got out of hand. And by the end of it, it was just it was tragic. It was tragic. Go check it out on Netflix. Tweet at me at Johnny Compian and tell me what you think about it, because it was a good documentary. And like I said, people were making fun of it and making a mockery out of it. And you know what? I get it. I get it. But a lot of things that happened in that were really, 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 really disgusting.
It was like this unleashing of all this energy.
There was no control.
The environment was just very male ego.
I started seeing large groups of dudes surrounding women.
There was a lack of respect.
Let's talk about the big show.
Inside the ManCave.
Kind of a big deal. Blah, blah.
With Johnny Compian.
You ready for some hot, steamy fun?
Inside the ManCave podcast show. Follow me on Twitter at Johnny Compian. And as always, all across my social media pages, hit the like button. Send me a friend request. I might accept it. I'm joking. I want to get into this Pantera topic again. I know I've been beating it down, but that's how you're going to get from me, because come 2023, that is going to start to manifest. And there's been a lot going on, and a lot of things that have been, brought out after the announcement a few weeks ago that this is going to happen. And Phil Anselmo, prior to the reunion news, he had talked about, that he said that the Abbott brothers would have loved for Pantera to live on. Who knows? Listen to Phil.
Dimebag and Vince always wanted this band to be a legacy band, to be massive, to be our own conduit to success, simply put. I think Diamond Vince, I know Diamond Vince would want the legacy and the name of Pantera to go on and on and on and in everybody's damn face. I know that for sure. Abso-fucking-lutely, dude. That would be their biggest dream.
You hear him, and he was part of that group. You have to respect that. And everybody that's on board, that's going to do this, they've talked about how they want to pay tribute to their friends and do this right. And when this came out, the news first came out, I was kind of hesitant to jump aboard right away. And I'm still on the fence about a few things, because I talked about, everything goes fine, everything sounds great, and all of a sudden, Zach Wilde is like, hey, you know what, Phil and Rex, I think this sounds so good. Let's try to put together a new song. I got some ideas. Let's put a new Pantera record together. That's where I'm like, I feel this is going to lead to. And that's where I kind of like, okay, the boundaries are you're crossing them. I don't mind you coming out and doing some shows and kind of keeping that alive. The Abbott brothers legacy going. It would be cool. You do it right, I'm all aboard. Of course I'm going to go see it. I want to witness it. Of course. I'm not going to go and just kind of, they're in Austin because they won't come to San Antonio. But I'll definitely go in and check this out. I don't know how you feel about it, But seeing the original, I'm telling you, I've emphasized this, that it's not going to be the same thing. We don't know yet. We haven't had, we've heard Phil and Zach do some shows, and still it's like putting a Van Halen tribute band, well, not tribute, but if you had Alex, David and Michael Anthony come out, you still don't have the main component to that Van Halen machine. And you can disagree with me, but it's not, tweet at me at Johnny Compian and tell me, how you feel about that. I don't, these things are, because it's such a tragic thing, that happened to the Abbott brothers. No one is here to kind of speak up for them and say, no, you know what? No, it's not right. And if Vinnie Paul was here or Dime, they're not here to kind of say, yeah, you know what? Phil is right. Let's move on with this. So that's where that kind of stands with me. I get it. You can't just leave that door closed. You still have Phil and Samo, you have Rex Brown. And that's cool that Zach Wilde, he was a great friend of Dimebag Darrell, and of course he's gonna represent for his buddy. Of course he is, and I'm not gonna hate on him for that. Zach Wilde is such a great talent, but he's no disrespect to Zach Wilde, but he is no Dimebag Darrell. I've sat back, a couple of days ago, and I listened to some Pantera. So I'm gonna listen to some Pantera, live Pantera, and that band was just so. I can remember seeing them live. They just sounded so great and tight, just strong and loud. I don't know if you can recreate that. I don't know. I don't think so. Prove me wrong. I don't know. I saw some stock video of Zach and Phil with Phil's band, and they played a Pantera song, and it wasn't there. It wasn't. No disrespect to Zach Wilde, but it wasn't there. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see when they start coming out, and you'll see video, because it's, we live in that age where you're going to see video. You're going to see it because Zach Wilde is very active on Instagram and on Twitter. He's always on there. He's doing these little skits, and they're funny as hell. He's hilarious. He's a great dude. And like I said, no disrespect to Zach Wilde, but he's no Dimebag. Tweet at me at Johnny Compian and tell me what you think. I know that the NFL season, we had NFL preseason football last Thursday. It was great. It was preseason. It was still football to me. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but a lot of people don't get into preseason. I do, because I love the game. I love to sit back and even these training camp shows they have on the NFL Network. It's pretty cool when they go from town to town, or wherever teams take their teams to go practice. It's kind of, it's cool when they go in and kind of give you an insight of what's going on they go to Oxnard, and right now, the storyline was in Carolina. They both come out and they're like, there's no, we're good friends, and we don't, that's not what we're all about. We're here to represent the organization, and the best man wins. I love that. But you can kind of tell where this is going to lead to. You can. I'm not going to say anything because it's a storyline. These guys always talk about, you guys, these NFL players come out and say, you guys are the ones that want to make this storyline up and go with it. So you guys do whatever you want with it. We're out here trying to get our stuff together in training camp and get ready for the season.
It's starting to slowly come out, on the practice field, just trying to make sure I handle my business in the locker room and stuff like that. Just, it's about having fun with these guys. That's why we're down here at Wofford, to be able to come to training camp and push each other and just enjoy it, get to know each other as well. So behind the scenes, we're having a lot of fun, just razzing each other, and the friendly competition is where you bring out the best in each other.
I think that's for you guys to, kind of, dictate, if I have the edge or he has the edge, and, what we have over each other. I think that's kind of for the media to dictate, and that's for the coaches to discuss, as they make the decision.
It's interesting how Baker and Darnold are going at it, and I just find it entertaining how they'll call out the media and say, you guys want to create this. We don't. We're friends and we're hanging out. Yeah, whatever, dude. You want to be the starting quarterback, right? Just imagine. These two guys are very good quarterback. It's a good problem to have. And so it's going to be, they're not announcing anything till after they play the Patriots. And so, it's already there. Just like in Dallas. In Dallas, they go to Oxnard. And Jerry, they're live. You have a couple of guys there. And, from the NFL Network and Baldy sitting there. And they're kind of analyzing the Cowboys. And they're talking about, of course, Dak Prescott. And then all of a sudden, Jerry shows up. And they hand him a mic. If Jerry's there, you hand him a mic. So Jerry just starts going off. He hijacked that NFL show for like 30 minutes. And they were kind of all looking at each other because I'm sure that the producers in their ear going, we need to take a break. We got sponsors, man. We got a schedule. We're supposed to be switching from team to team. And Jerry's talking about, and he's talking to Baldy. And he's looking at him, and he's blowing off the two of the guys that are flanked. And he's not even acknowledging these guys. It's so bad. He's kind of reminiscing about this and that. And I was laughing. It was hilarious. And you have to come to a point where, when you're a producer and you're doing a good interview, you break protocol, man. You know what? We have to keep going. Yeah, the boss is yelling at you and people are, we need to break. We need to go here. We need to go to traffic. We got priorities. And you're like, I know, but Jerry's here and my guys, they're not helping me out at all. They're just going along with it because Jerry's there. And that was the longest interview. Like, they had GMs and they had coaches and players and scouts and reporters on there. And everybody kind of just did, they hit the format and they're like, yeah, okay, 5 minutes and we're done. But Jerry takes 30, more than 30. And they were like, well, last question, Jerry, for you. And they kind of like, hey, Jerry, this is it, man. Last question for you, Jerry. And then he keeps going. He starts going off on another tangent. They can't control him. It was so hilarious. I sat back and I'm like, that's why you do not hand a mic to Jerry Jones. It was good stuff. I'm excited for the NFL season to start. And a lot of storylines, and Dak Prescott came out because he's all over the media right now. He's excited. Everybody's fired up. At this point, everybody's team is winning the Super Bowl. We'll be there at the end. And Prescott came out and did that. How do you guys feel about that, Cowboys fans? He made a quote. And he said, I don't know the content of the question, but it was on Twitter. And I just don't know a lot of what went into that question that he had to come out and say what he said. But he said it. That they'll be there at the end. More promises for Dallas Cowboy fans. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? It's not good. It's not a good look. Ezekiel Elliott. The receiving core. You had some injuries, and that happens. That happens all the time. I told you guys about this in this last podcast. You know, when I talked about, training camp, that key injuries happen during training camp. You can put those foam things on their head and make them look all crazy, but still they're gonna get injured. Yeah, they're doing that. They're putting those things over their helmets because they like, you know what? There's a lot of collisions, and the NFL is like, hey, we're doing our job, and we're listening to all the analytics. We want to do the right thing. But these players go out there, and Jameis Winston for the New Orleans Saints, they came out and they did a story on them on the NFL Network. Jameis Winston was injured, ends up in New Orleans. There was some other injuries to that receiving core, and they're getting players back. People, players are rehabbed and they're ready to come back and play, and they got big expectations, and they're hyped up, ready to come back and start making some money, and kind of putting their name out there, and they want to be elite. They want to be known. They want to be out there. So Winston was hurt. Well, they said he tweaked his ankle during a play. So he had a different injury, but still. And they talk about, it's an ankle injury, and it's gonna, an ankle injury is gonna, they're gonna take his time back and say, look, you know what, we're gonna scale you back. You're gonna come out, play a little bit, throw the ball around. You're not gonna move around. You're not gonna be. We don't want you to run around and do anything. We need you to be right. We need that ankle to be ready for the season. Because Drew Brees isn't there, and they want to be there. They want to be there at the end. The Saints, they've always been one of those teams that competed, and some, they would end up there at the end at the Super Bowl. They're proven. They're a proven team, but can they do it with some of the new parts that they got? A lot of interesting storylines, I'm telling you. A lot of interesting storylines. But lots of excitement. Thursday's around the corner. Get your beer iced up and your barbecue pits ready. And get ready for another NFL football season, because it's here already. Get your gear out, and we'll have a lot of football going into the weekend. And it's exciting. I know I'm excited about it. So it's always good. Football is king, and it's always good to talk about it. You know, it's always good to talk about football, and speaking of football, when we talk about football, when we talk about elite, we brought that. I said that word elite, and what comes to mind? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and there's things that are coming out. He was on a podcast, and I've told you guys before. This guy is. I'm not a Green Bay fan. I'm not a Green Bay Packers fan. Never have been. Never will be. Just not a fan. But I like to watch any team play, to compete. Right? So there was something that came out the other day about Aaron Rodgers drinking ayahuasca, and he talked about how it helped him achieve and get, some goals, and talked about a bunch of things. I mean, here it is.
And I'd heard about ayahuasca, and I think there's so many myths and rumors about it. The fear around it is you're going to shit yourself. It's just a big throw up fest. It's all these,
both not completely untrue,
right? But all these, but the negative framework of it is that is the experience, not the deep and meaningful and crazy mind expanding possibilities, and also deep self love and healing that can happen on the other side. And a dear friend of mine, Jordan, in 2019 went down to Peru and did an experience and came back, and we were playing golf one day right after he got back, and he told me the whole story, and I was moved, deeply moved, and I felt like now it's time. Now it's time for me to do it. So Danica and I planned a trip down to Peru with some friends to go do it, and also wedged around an incredible, unbelievable, I'm a deep lover of history, but incredible experience climbing Mount Machu Picchu with a Quechua guide.
Did you go early in the morning?
Yeah,
that's when
we went at 7, and
got to catch
like,
that first train and get out there. For anybody wanting to go to Machu Picchu, like catch the first train, get out there fucking early when there's nobody there, because you'll feel the energy wake up. It
was unbelievable, and just the magic there. We were up at like 5, and I think we got on the bus at like 5:30, 5:45 or so, and by the time I got up there and got out, it was closer to 7, and we took 7 hours, super slow and intentional climbing. There's 2 mountains there, Huayna Picchu and Machu Picchu. They're both at the top, look down on the ruins, and a lot of people just hit the early bus and go right to the ruins, and it's probably amazing. But we took our time winding up this long path to the top of the mountain with these 2 incredible shamans and our Quechua guide, and had a magical experience, just enjoying the nature and the magic and the majesty of the mountain and nature. And then got to the top and stayed up there for a good hour or so, like just looking out at the incredible mountains around it, looking down at the ruins, imagining what life was like, 600, 500 years before, when the Incans were still, alive and well and thriving in that environment. And
they very well may have just kind of usurped whoever actually built it.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing
Totally.
about the Incans. Like, they get a lot of credit in the history books. Mad love to the Incans. Awesome culture and civilization, but they might not have built shit.
Totally. But just imagining, life like that, and it was very easy to do in that environment with those people we went with, and then making our way down, back down to the ruins and walking through them, and it was a lightning storm that was going on, and our hair was standing up, and there's static all in the air, and it was just a magical experience. And went from that into an ayahuasca ceremony with Shipipo people and hearing the Icaros and the room filled with mapacho, and it was a magical first night of just surrendering to any of the lessons that needed to come through the grandmother spirit of the vine, and I've told this story about my trip to Peru and getting back into the country Argo style, literally taking off a half hour before the entire country shut down, as it was March 8th of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. But it was a very deep and meaningful couple nights ceremony, and I came back and knew that I was never going to be the same. And like you said, it doesn't. You don't do that, and then for me, I didn't do that and think, oh, I'm never playing football again. No, it gave me a deep and meaningful appreciation for life. And my intention the first night going in was, I want to feel what pure love feels like. That was my intention. And I did. I really did. I had a magical experience with the sensation of feeling 100 different hands on my body, imparting a blessing of love and forgiveness for myself and gratitude for this life from what seemed to be my ancestors.
You think that's okay? And it just came out that the NFL isn't coming out and they're not doing anything. They're not going to move forward and fine Aaron Rodgers about, talking about doing psychedelic drugs. And there's other players that come out and say, I've smoked weed and there's huge fines and this and that. And it's crazy. I heard that and I'm like, dude, he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, you know what? I did ayahuasca. It helped me out. It led to this. I opened my mind up and it helped me do this and that. You heard that soundbite. I'm not hating on it. I wanted to try ayahuasca, matter of fact. A good friend of mine that I worked with, he's like, dude, he used to preach all the time to me and kind of like, we need to go to the Amazon and go do ayahuasca. Well, you don't have to go to the Amazon now to do ayahuasca. You don't. It was amazing how you hear about these storylines and it's like, okay, well, if it's okay for Aaron Rodgers to do it and it got him over the hump, is it okay for other NFL players to do that? Hey, Dak, he's not right mentally. He's, he's got a fear he's going to get in another little tussle and the leg's going to go this way. And maybe he might have to do ayahuasca. Is that the answer for all the things after this season is done? And, you're like, I was right there. I was at the cusp. You know what? Look what Aaron Rodgers did. I want to do ayahuasca. I want to drink it. Drink the tea. Throw up. Start tripping. Go through some stuff and then wake up and like, wow, okay, I feel different now. I'm ready to go out and kind of achieve what I want. I feel more confident. I think it's great. I think it's great that he did that, but still in this country, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're all across the board. We're okay with things like that. Like you can go to Colorado and do mushrooms or whatever and smoke pot. In Texas, you can't do that. And that's pretty, I don't know, the way I feel, if you're going to do that in the United States of America, you should allow it across the board. There should be no boundaries. There shouldn't be no brownies. Look what's happened. You know, who was it? Shumpert in Dallas got busted and he went to jail. So many things that happen, and it just disgusting. You know, you sit back and you're reading it and you're like, why? He's going to a legal state, or I mean, come on. Maybe he needs it for, you know, medical purposes. Now everything, I mean, the guy has money to take care of it. The average person, you know, they get busted for trying to bring over some pot or this and that. I call it pot, marijuana or whatever. And they destroy their, the NFL players and NBA players. Kevin Durant has his own company that has he has a dispensary, I think, something like that. He has his own brand of marijuana, and he smokes it. He says it's like drinking wine to him. Excuse me. And I think that's great. He sat down with Letterman a few months back, and it was a great interview. It was really cool. I love Durant. Yeah, he's got his issues right now. He's kind of, you know, doing what he's doing. KD is KD, man. And don't try to troll him on social media, because he'll eat you alive. It's proven. Don't do it. But these young folks will do it because they feel like, hey, you know what? We're on TikTok, and you know we're gonna. And no, he will come out and destroy you. But it's crazy how that happens, where, you know, these players, you know, with the Brittany Griner thing, you know, she got sentenced to 9 years. It was awful. But, you know, you should know better. You should know better to do certain things when, I mean, I know people are going to jump on me and say this and that. It's a huge story. And they still, I mean, they need to get her out of there. I don't agree with that whole thing. She doesn't need to be there at all. It's a political pawn. It's horrible. Get her out of there. It was so awful to see that trial go, and it happened so quick. Some of these other trials that are going on where these guys that did some awful things, they're sitting around and they're hanging out and doing stuff, enjoying, you know, their time. They've done some bad things, and they're still sitting there doing their time. It's just awful. It's awful to see. And she's not the only American. I'm reading other stories where things happen, and you know, you make a bad move and you end up in a bad situation in a foreign country. And in Russia, I mean, it was awful to see. I was so sad to see Brittany Griner in that situation. But hopefully we can get her home soon. It's awful. She should not be in Russia right now doing 9 years. No. They need to get that together. We need to fix this. We need to fix all these things with marijuana and all the stuff that's going on in Texas and these other states that are not legal yet. You know, Texas will probably be the last state that will be legal, where you'll be able to use recreational marijuana. And all the states, and you guys heard it. I don't have to talk about this. You guys know that these states, what I'm fascinated by is these leaders, these local leaders, especially in Colorado. I mean, this guy, he's like, you know what? And the governor there, you know what? They work together. You know what? We can profit from this and we can make this work. All these states that have that, they're bringing in so much money. You hear it. You hear these people who are trying. They're trying so hard in this state of Texas to try to legalize marijuana. And the pushback is, it's crazy. It's not going to happen. No matter, you think you're so close, but yet you're still so far away. That's reality. It's insane how, the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that there's people that are, they get pulled over and they have a little bit of pot on them. Enough for a joint or a blunt or whatever people do. And that's going to put you in a system. You're going to be, I don't know for a fact, but I don't know what it does. I mean, I don't know if it's the same thing as DWI where you're put in a system, you're going to probation, you're doing all, I mean, it's just an inconvenience. If you got a job and you got a career and you use it you just don't use it. You're older and you use it for, medical purposes. You don't want to keep taking those pain pills or, just kind of, take all this other crap that they prescribe to you. And you're like, you know what? I smoke a little bit and I'll go to sleep and I feel better. I wake up better. I'm more focused. Or if I'm dealing with this, I smoke a little bit and it gets me right. In some states, it's like, you got to hide it. It's awful. It's a bad situation. I really wish we can fix it. And people talk about it and they try and they put different spins on it and still it's frowned upon. It's so bad. It's so bad how they treat this. It's just awful. But now there was something that came along on my Twitter feed, and I had to laugh at it. I had to laugh at this. Because I don't know if you guys watched the Stranger Things, the series. I'm sure a lot of you have, because I watched it. I watched all 4 seasons. I gave it a shot in the beginning. I was like, this is pretty cool. The music was cool. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all 4 seasons. And the way, 4 was, where Metallica was involved and Trujillo's son was in there. He played that guitar part on Master of Puppets and just that whole fiasco. So today, I always go and I try to read and find some of the stories, and I see something about Metallica and cancel culture. And I was like, whoa, okay, let me read this. Let me read what's going on. What is that? And it was a TikTok user who was going after Metallica. And, this person, I don't want to mention her or him, but because I don't want to give it any more life, because it's ridiculous. Being a Metallica fan for years, and all of a sudden this comes out, and then some of the things you read on the threads, it's like, it makes you shake your head. it's amazing how 2022 is with video, social media, and how we do things now. I read it, I saw the video, and I was disturbed by it because some of the things that this person was saying, I kind of just shook my head. I'm like, really? Okay, I get it. You want to try to destroy and bring down this huge band because you feel that this is wrong. And you're trying to start a firestorm. Well, I can tell you this, TikTok user. That person or those guys you're trying to go after, that machine called Metallica, they bite back. They're not going to, if this thing starts picking up steam, and, some tweets came out last week, and some of the stars from that final season of Stranger Things were at a Metallica show, and they jammed together, and they were Lars and and James were emphasizing how they're so amazed how it picked up steam just by being on that finale there. And this comes out. It's being talked about. Maybe it's not a thing now, but I'm sure it will be. It's just amazing. It's amazing how these things happen. All I'm saying is come on, take a step back. Stick to your stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, TikTok user. Stick to your Taylor Swift. Stick to your stuff. I mean, you start prodding Metallica, and they're going to bite back. They're going to bite back. So keep prodding that machine called Metallica. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And see what happens. So I appreciate you guys kind of, sitting back and kind of being patient because I haven't released anything. But I promise you guys that I'm going to keep releasing more podcasts, and I'm going to try to do a couple of different things. So like I said, follow me on Twitter, add me on Facebook, follow me on IG, like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Inside the ManCave podcast show. And, I appreciate that support. That is awesome. And before I go here, I know you're seeing this one screenshot, and it has a couple of vinyl up there. And I talked about a few podcasts back, I talked about the album of the day, or album of the week. So that's what I'm going to do it now. Whatever I have displayed up there, you see those 6 vinyl covers up there. That's what I'm into right now. Some of the new stuff I picked up, and I'm adding to my collection. The Black Crows there, it's a 10-year anniversary of that release. And, some of the new Tool came out. I got the huge box set, but I also picked this up because I can actually listen to the other one. I haven't opened it yet. So, and some stuff from Waxworks, of course. I was fortunate enough to be a subscriber, and when the pandemic hit, it kind of threw everything off with, creating or making vinyl. Everything stopped. So everything backed up, and, all these releases kind of, got delayed. So finally got a bunch of my Waxworks subscriber vinyl. I'll be posting some of that on my page. You'll be able to see it while I'm blabbing. You'll be able to look at my cameras, one of my cameras, and it'll show, 6 albums that I'm listening to right now, or something that those 6 I just added right now to my collection.
Tweet at me at Johnny Compian on Twitter. And you can also support the podcast show on anchor.fm/Johnny5150.